Hey, what's good? Thanks for hopping in the car with Christian Addiction Recovery, the channel where like-minded individuals that face similar struggles can come so that we can learn and discuss new ways to live our best lives possible and overall become the best versions of ourselves. I first want to say that I am so honored that God has chosen to use me to help others. I'm so very blessed to be alive. And the fact that God has chosen to give me a purpose in His ministry, I'm just honored beyond belief. And I just want to say I thank you for the people that have reached out to me for help, because I'm very blessed to be able to be a blessing to you guys. Okay, so learning about neural pathways and neuroscience helped save my life. When I made it to rehab, and after stumbling literally face first into my class on the first day, I was a shell of a man. I've said it before, but I wasn't the everyday addict for 20 years, but I was the guy that just loved detoxing. Obviously, if you've ever detoxed, you know that I'm being hyperbolic, because detoxing is a terrible experience. But what I was trying to infer is that I was always in the cycle of addiction to depression and trying to fight the addiction to relapsing back into the addiction. So I was just always stuck in this cycle. And I didn't know how to get out of it until I learned the psychology of the mind and the science of the brain. As I began to learn, I discovered that I was trapped in that negative behavior. My mind was on repeat, and I couldn't get away from the negative behavior because of my thinking. And I couldn't get away from the negative thinking because of my behavior. I really didn't want the life that I had for so long, and I wanted to change, but it was really impossible until I learned how. I realized that I needed to change as many things in my life as possible, get a clean slate. I'm blessed to have a family that helped me, and I had a little bit of money put away from my business, and I decided to relocate to Jacksonville. I wasn't running from my problems. I was reestablishing myself. I needed a new environment, different streets to drive down. I needed a different scenery in my everyday life so that I could create these new neural pathways. And when I say a neural pathway, that's what I'm referring to when neurons in your brain wire together. So, for instance, let's just say you drive to work every morning and you leave the house at 7:52. Well, there's a bunch of neural pathways that are going to get carved on that ride to work. You're going to be pulling up at the light with the same amount of traffic. You're going to be noticing the same guy on the corner. You're going to be seeing the sun in the same position in the sky. You're going to be driving the same car. So every time you experience something, neurons in your brain fire together, and then those neurons wire together, and that creates a neural pathway. And as you repeat this process for any experience in the world, it's going to get ingrained in your conscious and in your subconscious, therefore becoming a part of your thinking. So because I was always in that cycle of addiction and depression, I had literally created a neural pathway and attached either addiction or depression or just those negative emotions that come with those things to every street I drove down, to every business that I had gone to every restaurant I ate at, to every friend that I hung out with. So when I drove down those streets or hung out with those people, my brain began to go back to those old neural pathways, and then I would be engulfed in that negative emotion again, in that pain. And because of how I used to handle that pain when I was around those people and when I was driving down those roads, it began to trigger the desire to go handle that pain with the addiction and with those substances, like I've always done. And when you're trapped in addiction, it's no fun. Yes, you are searching out to get high, but when you're trapped in the addiction, you're searching out that because you're dealing with a great deal of pain inside, and because you know that you're not supposed to be handling that pain with that substance, you're immediately bringing more shame upon yourself every single time. So a person that's trapped in addiction very literally just stays in negative emotion. Even when they're getting high, they're still building walls of shame around them. The point is, I knew the life that I wanted, and I knew that it was possible to rewire my brain. But I also knew that it was going to be really hard to do that, staying in the same city that I grew up in. So, as I said, sorry for the tangent, I moved to Jacksonville. And so I had a fresh, clean slate to start creating all these new neural pathways and start gaining all this different perspective on my problems and the world in general. And there was many things that I wanted to add into my routine to help create this new brain. But I also learned at the facility that I went to that you can't take on too much at once. So I decided to just pick one thing that I could introduce into my routine so that I could accomplish it every day. And what that did is it boosted my confidence immediately. I know it was something small. As a matter of fact, it was probably the easiest thing that I could have done, and it was simply to drive to the beach every day and take a walk and be mindful on that walk and pay attention to the beautiful creation that God has given us. And it really was working. And I've said this before, and I'll probably say it again, but it was about my second week of walking on the beach, and I started to feel this overwhelming sense of contentment in my stomach. And just, I called my mom. I said, hey, there's this feeling that I have in my stomach, and I explained it to her, and she was just kind of laughed, and she said, I think that's happiness, son. And she was right, and it's been with me ever since. But a couple months in, I decided to start introducing exercise into my routine. And because I was trapped in addiction so long, my muscles just weren't really up to the challenge when I first began. But I listened to an interesting video, and I started to apply what he told me in that video to my strategy. And what it was is that he was explaining to someone that was trying to start going to the gym that, hey, just to get those neural pathways going, why don't you just drive to the gym for the first week? Just go through the process of actually driving to the gym, driving down that street at that time of day and arriving. And then he said, on the second week, go ahead and put your gym clothes on before you leave the house, or drive to the gym and then go inside and put your gym clothes on and don't even work out. Just build that neural pathway. And so what I started doing was just going to the gym and doing as much as I could, which was not very much. Like literally probably 2 or 3 minutes the first few times. But pretty soon my thinking was, hey, you're already here. You're already dressed. Let's go ahead and push out a good workout. And it took time, but about a year after that routine every single day, my body is now looking for that going to the gym. It's trying to get that dopamine rush and that serotonin from something that's actually really good for me. And that's how we rewire our brain. It's repetition. I was talking to my buddy. He said, I'm really having a hard time finding things to write about in my gratitude journal. And what I told him is, say thank you for things that you're not really thankful for. Start training your brain to say that you're thankful for that. Like, it's really hard for me to be thankful that I haven't seen my kids in a couple of years. Like, really hard. I love them so much. They were everything to me. They were literally the only reason why I kept going for so long. And that was kind of the problem, is that they were everything to me. I had placed them at the very top of the pyramid in my life, above God, above myself. And there's nothing wrong with loving your children, but in order for your life to be in order and for you to be complete, you have to have your priorities right. So I've learned to say things like, I'm thankful, Lord, that my kids haven't had to deal with their mother and myself fighting. Or, God, I'm so thankful for this time that I've had with you over the last 2 years. And though I miss my kids more than anything, the time that we've had together is priceless. And I thank you for that, God. So that's just an example of a way that you can reframe things to be thankful where you're at. And I know I got off a track a little bit. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, neural pathways. But that's okay. Gratitude is a really good neural pathway to start creating in your everyday routine. I really highly suggest waking up in the morning, and maybe at first you just really don't feel like journaling every day. So why don't you just go to the table, pull a pen and paper out, and just sit there for 5 minutes. You could do that for the first week. Then on week 2, you could go to the table with your pen and paper, and you could either write a sentence every day, or you could just pick a topic each day. Spend 5 minutes and think about a topic that you're going to write about at a later date. Then on week 3 or week 4 or whenever you think is good, then you start writing a paragraph a day and then a page a day. And then guess what? You have just rewired your brain to look for a morning routine filled with gratitude. And I'm going to tell you, that's how you start experiencing the fullness of joy in your life. Our minds are very powerful tools that have been turned against us. The enemy seeks to steal, kill, and destroy. And I think the main way that he does that is to program our minds to where he can steal our joy, kill our inspiration, and destroy our future. If he's trapped you in addiction or depression, then he is destroying your future. But you can stop him. You can take your mind back. You can reprogram your brain to experience joy and contentment where you used to experience depression and anxiety. I am living proof. I now have the peace that passes all understanding. As before, I was kind of the chaos that passes all understanding. If you know me, you know what I'm talking about. My bad. But God has put good desires in your heart. He has put aspirations to be something. And I know that a lot of us quiet that voice down and just think that, it's just a childish dream to think that we could be something amazing. But no, those things are put inside of us by God. And the enemy tries to stifle and confuse the calling that God has put on us. But start asking God to reveal those desires to you, those good things, and then start implementing them into your life. And it's going to take work. It's going to take practice. But if you want to, you can change your life and you can experience the fullness of joy that God has intended for your life. All right. I hope you'll start doing something new today, creating a new neural pathway of some sort. Get that brain neuroplasticity up so that you can create this new life. And I know you can do it. Hey, and if you're still checking out this video, comment below and tell me something that you do to increase your neuroplasticity in your brain, something that you do to create a new neural pathway. Or if you've been feeling trapped lately, comment down below. I feel trapped, and I will put a prayer in for you. God is faithful to deliver us from evil. So I know that he can pull you out of whatever pit that you find yourself in. Hey, if you liked the video or if you didn't, smash the like button. Smash the like button. Hit that one if you need to. It's all right. I just need the algorithm to know that this is information that is valuable. And if you haven't yet, go ahead and subscribe. Stay with the channel. We're going to do some amazing things. Not only are we going to help people, but we're also going to start some companies that are really, really going to help the masses. Stay tuned. Check me out. Peace.